Good morning. So what is ICT? Information, communication, technology. Good morning. Maybe another coffee. Well, welcome to Cupertino. Welcome to the birthplace of ICT Nation, which used to be known as the birthplace for iPhone. So I'm really glad you are here today. It's our first partner summit, and I know you have had to rejuggle a lot of the schedule. We planned this 2 months ago, and you had to take a lot of time out of your day to come here join us. And I hope you find the 3 days very productive. Hopefully, at least by the end, you know what ICT stands for. And I trust that you learn a lot more than that. I'm excited about the agenda myself. So before I start, I want to ask you a question under the test whether you had enough coffee. Any of you the 2 birthdays in a year? Anybody? I had. And here's how you do it. In 1990, September 16th, that's my birthday, I got on an airplane in Hong Kong airport, and I started my journey to America. So I arrived the next day, which is September 16th. So in 1990, I celebrate my birthday twice, which originally was not planned for, but it was very symbolic because I had a big American dream. And when I arrived, I was reborn. So at the airport, a gentleman called Will DeWeese was meeting me. He was 6 feet 7 inches, a little bit taller than me. So I actually didn't know him very well, but my friend Carol Braxma asked Will to sponsor me when I arrived in America. So Will agreed. He showed up at the airport, took me home, and later on he explained to me that he thought he was sponsoring another friend of Carol's. Was not me. So we became very good friends, and throughout the years he would joke with me often. I told Will that, well, I know I was the wrong girl for you, but you were the wrong guy for me, or you are the right guy for me. And there's a 4-letter word in English describes that situation called the fate. And I believe it was my fate to meet Will. And the reason I'm telling that story is I was very excited about seeing you guys today. Because I know in my heart, you guys are going to be very critical for Huawei enterprise to fulfill its American dream. And you are the Will DeWeese for me, for Huawei enterprise's American journey. So thank you again for coming. So one of the things that I thought Will did excellent job as a sponsor for me was perhaps very, very unique, was from day one, from the time he picked me up from airport, he always treated me like American. Nothing more, nothing less. He took me home, his house with his girlfriend Judy, And he spent 5 minutes showing me my bedroom, and then he's gone. So I spent 30 minutes looking for water, because I didn't know you can drink tap water here. And then I spent 15 minutes figure out how to turn on the hot water. By the way, if you were trying to take a shower this morning at 6:30, there was no hot water. But I think it's a different problem than what I had in 1990. So it's a fine example that from day one, I felt my American dream was fulfilled because I was treated like American. And hopefully we'll keep that in mind as we are working with each other, taking Huawei Enterprise to America. So if you don't mind, I know some of you already know a little bit about Huawei, hopefully from Huawei people. And some of you know a little bit Huawei, but not from Huawei, from the press, from the Capitol Hill, from our competition. So I would like to spend a few minutes to tell you what we think about Huawei. Anybody recognize this? Very good, Joe. In 1938, HP was born in this garage. In 1979, China's first special economic zone was born, and it's called Shenzhen. A few years later, a gentleman, his name is Ren Zhengfei, took $2,000 and founded Huawei. So Huawei from its very beginning was very much like a Silicon Valley company, a startup at its heart with strong focus on research and development. So about 25 years later, we have a global company that's 150,000 employees in 150 countries with 25 global innovation centers. As I said, if you look at Huawei, perhaps it's a little bit different than a lot of the Chinese company you deal with or you know about, or you run into when you go shopping at Sears, JCPenney, or Walmart. Huawei from its very beginning is an innovation technology company, and it shows. We now have 70,000 R&D engineers. Actually, a lot of the executives, if you meet them, the board members, in 15 minutes, you can tell they used to be an engineer. It meant to be a compliment. 15 R&D centers worldwide and lots of patents. And we also have a few R&D locations in North America, but the largest R&D location is down the street in Santa Clara. So we do design products in North America too, like many other companies helped to globalize other industries, such as automobile. Great. And the strong focus on R&D really paid off. As you can see, revenue is growing really fast. Here's a chart. Of course, it has always been growing fast, but here's a chart showing the growth from 2007 to 2012. And I guess it's exciting to work for a company that has a growth trend literally skyrocketing. So today we are going to talk a little bit about the Gorilla game. So Huawei is also very fortunate, I think, that the history, Huawei started as a communication technology company and later on got into IT technologies. And then we are at the inflection point that we need both technologies. So from that point of view, timing is very much right. And therefore, we call Huawei Gorilla in the emerging markets for ICT. And then we'll talk a little bit more about that concept. Let's look at the key market dynamics that we all face today, which is really what this week about, that in addition to study a little bit about Huawei product solutions, what we would like to do is leverage our strengths and get together with all of you and look at how we come up with a joint plan to tackle what's happening in the market today. Well, I'm sure some days you feel it's a little bit chaotic, and we're experiencing a chaos. So it's very comforting to know Einstein has a formula for everything, including chaos as well.
Mobility has been ignored long enough. I mean, it's essential for our sales force to use a tablet. Using a laptop, that's like carrying a brick around, and it has just a minuscule capability than what they have today with an iPad.
And really, the notebook keeps getting just left in the bag. Really, that's what I hear. I troubleshot an issue a couple months back, and that was my first question. And when was the last time you used this device? And they're like, oh, well, I only have to go for XYZ application. That's why I pull out the laptop. And I see that more and more. I mean, sometimes they want to use their notebook because they need to create. Sometimes they want to snack, so they use mobility. So it's finding that right balance for our customers to give them the tool they want to do to access their data and their applications.
And can it connect up to 5 devices per person? Because now people are showing up not only with a tablet and a phone, but they have their exercise meter on. I mean, they have all sorts of things. So for us, our challenges have been able to keep up from a technology perspective, just from a capacity perspective, The other thing is we have sales agents who come in all the time. They don't even want a laptop anymore or a desktop. They're like, I already got my device. So how do you secure that? So one of the ways we've been able to answer that is by creating virtual desktops and then giving them access into those virtual desktops and being able to secure the desktops themselves.
I didn't know you can check email on the exercise meters. Now my marketing team promised these are not actors they hired. I know some of them do look like actors. So the number one issue is mobility. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. You all realize you deal with that every day. This is gotten a study showing the growth of tablets and the mobile phone will continue. So on the other hand, I'm sure you're already aware the PC actually is going down. So this is really the center of the issue that's driving ICT. From the trend from IT to ICT is how to deal with amount of tablets and smartphones at workplace. Now, in a way, it's a great opportunity because the growth of mobility, the growth of wireless, the growth of communication and connectivity, all of us. So I don't know whether some of you reading Mary Meeker's Internet Trend Report every year. She's with Klein Perkins, and she publishes Internet Trend Report every year, and it's very, very interesting. For this particular one, there's a segment talking about reimagination. How do we reimagine the markets that seemed to be familiar yesterday. So she gives some examples, and some of them that you already know. Temperature control, how you make appointments, how do you do recruiting, so and how to reimagine the production, right? Instead of high volume standardized items, internet mobility going here to customize things. Reimagine how do you shop at the street market? How do you order food? How do you take a taxi? Joe, who came from New York, I'm sure you appreciate this one on a raining day. And how do you remodel your home? How do you navigate? Although I personally found this still challenging, I get lost anyway. Is this working? Oh, this is better. So, how do you make somebody famous, right? This is even more interesting. I don't know whether you're familiar with this Tupac at Coachella concert. So, Tupac was brought to life by a lot of storage product. Hopefully, you check ours out throughout the week. And the concert, if you have a chance, get on the YouTube. I suggest you take a look. It was really amazing. You felt his presence. So some of those you already know. We already experiencing that. But what I want to talk about some of the things I saw real time from customers. You basically can reimagine your whole life around education. So one of the things you see throughout the week is we have an intense focus on education. And when we first started the vertical, that in my mind we'll be working a lot with partners on solutions to take the education material online, like what this chart shows. And as we go through the project, we realize the possibility is much more enormous. It touches every aspect of their life, and we have a video later on that one of our customers will talk about how excited he is to incorporate virtually a lot of the Huawei product line from IT to CT into his technology deployment that will create much more equality for the kids. So this becomes a much more amazing and life-touching project than I first thought. And big data, that's something else that's going to be exciting. And with our broad portfolio, hopefully we can come up with a solution that's really exciting for the customer base you have. And the workflow, in the media entertainment vertical, we talked to a lot of customers. I don't know whether Amir is here yet. He'll probably talk about how we can use our ICT portfolio to create better workflow for that industry, which hopefully will create a lot better and a lot more movies we'll like. And retail, I trust there's a panel today that you will hear how, for example, Sears has transformed from the clunky cashier to smart tablet and much better system. And video. Video is the center of the tsunami. In addition to the mobility, video is creating so much bandwidth needs, and that's driving some of the reasons we're here today, that how do we leverage that opportunity. So in summary, Mary put together a chart showing basically for every market segment, there's plenty opportunity to reimagine the world. Now that was the good news, but there are also some challenges that we have to deal with because of the movement to mobility to the cloud. So, of course, on the one hand, helping jointly, we can help enterprise deal better with the trend to mobility, BYOD, etc. But on the other hand, we also see enterprise under the pressure to move into some of their applications to public cloud, or they have to build their own private cloud. And we also see companies traditionally good at the communication technology moving to enterprise space, such as AT&T is building their cloud. So with those dynamics going on, as a reseller, as a value-added reseller, how do you look at your business model? And what's your business model going to look like in the next 5 years? And that's really the mission of ICT Nation. That in the transformation from IT to ICT, how do we work together to make your business much stronger for the next 5 years? The other thing you already see, or as a result of what we talked about, is the fact that a lot of enterprises are becoming private carriers. And they have to deal with a lot of the communication technology issues, and they have to manage enormous amount of wireless devices.
In terms of the operational support, every person had to move around to assume new roles to complement what the company could do. So we've gone through transitions to support mobility and BYOD. And it's probably going to continue. It's still evolving.
In several of the city buildings that are open to the public, we maintain the Wi-Fi hotspots, the public hotspots. Plus we have internal network hotspots. We also maintain those.
Now got a technical, like a PC tech in charge of ordering the iPhones and the iPads with the 3G. And they're the ones that get it in, configure it, set it up with our corporate monitoring software, and so we can do it like a remote wipe if someone decides to quit. So it's all handled by IT now instead of our communications person.
And so if I'm a desktop support guy, well, what does this mean for me? Is this my new switch? Do I have to support this end device? So that's where a lot of the cross-training has occurred. And traditionally, we're allowing those desktop engineers, we've actually even changed the model or the naming convention to infrastructure support. So they could be the first line of defense, whether it's VoIP, whether it's TDM phones, or even video conferencing. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be their front line to the user. And then they leverage the network or telecommunications department as a second line of defense.
We built a new office in Tampa, and we designed the office specifically around mobility. So we're seeing this as even having a physical infrastructure impact. We've partnered with AT&T and Verizon and Sprint, and we actually have had them embed cell towers, endpoints inside of our building, so in our closets where we keep all our LAN cables, we actually have the trunk coming in with a cellular tower. So I see that being the trend.
De rigueur, right? I mean, it's the ability to tether to the network, wireless or wired, is fundamental.
In fact, we're getting to the point now where the wired part of our network is the less important part of our network.
Well, Nexon's a global operation. They're on every continent except Australia. So to manage all of that, the internetworking, the voice, we do a lot of video conferencing. You basically, we are like a carrier, absolutely. And all the complexities and planning and infrastructure has to go with it. We didn't incorporate the wireless play from who we used for switching and routing. So we went to a complete different vendor for the wireless. And so it's opened a new relationship for us.
I thought it's amazing, just a few years, how the market has transformed. And one of the comments he talked about, the wireless is more important for me now than wireline. So the next issue is, as a result of the transformation to ICT, we also have to look at the public cloud versus private cloud. And how do you deal with that? How do you help customer make the right decisions, and also how do you strengthen your own value in all of this movement? So we hear some additional comments from some of the other IT folks.
We're looking at a private cloud initiative internally. Public cloud is not something we're interested in today, but we are looking at infrastructure as a service and other private cloud initiatives. We're not experiencing those cost pressures. What we are experiencing is some of the time to market pressures that our business units are looking at. They're asking why we can't deliver the same services that an Amazon can or things like that. It's forcing us to be more dynamic, more nimble, and look at alternate solutions that we hadn't looked at before. We've been doing virtualization for a long time, but now we're looking at more in-depth application virtualization, a lot of network virtualization, and different enablers in that space.
So we have a private cloud initiative. VMware is a huge thing for us, but automation has not always been a forefront. So this is our new venture, is being able to provide server deployments quicker for our developers. Pricing is always going to be there. There's always going to be pricing challenges, but I think at the end of the day, you have to understand your applications and how they're structured. Can they live in a public cloud model, or are they so stringent that they belong in a private cloud because we don't really have the applications built to be able to either coexist or exist in the public cloud? The other thing that public cloud personally that we've experienced, because we do have a small footprint at Amazon for development, is reliability and uptime. So those are kind of the challenges that we've had before.
We're looking at private cloud, but we're also considering a hybrid and potentially public for certain services. Yes, Amazon is the front runner of the options we're looking at because they're far more mature in their capabilities, and we can actually predict what our costing is going to be before we submit or subscribe to them, which is a big key. It's a big key differentiator for us because our budget cycles, we need to plan ahead by years, and they're the best ones to go by. Well, it makes you look at your own infrastructure and your internal commodities that you have, and realize that are we getting the most that we should be getting? So the business sees IT as simply a cost, and that's what we are. We're trying to find ways to reinvent ourselves.
PwC is just starting to look at private cloud now, so on-premise cloud services. We're looking for one of our largest applications we use for performing audits and how that can better serve us at PwC for savings and just better control. The latency of data is the biggest issue now. We've moved all the data away from people, so now you have these business critical applications that need to be accessible and have the speed as if they are on premise, but try to drive the cost down. We're 161 network firms, and not everyone has the budget that the larger territories do, so we need to drive that cost down for the smaller member firms to be able to realize the value. And so the larger firms within our network of firms will drive that technology and do the heavy lifting through proof of concept.
No, when we looked at our cloud provider, companies like Amazon really were not in play for us because If all of our applications were ready for the cloud, that would be one thing, but we need, some of our applications are going to be kind of traditional outsourcing, where they're dedicated servers that are managed by the provider, and then we're going to migrate those applications to be cloud enabled, to be virtualized, to be service oriented. But if you're in that state where you're kind of in between, where some of your applications are not ready for the cloud, you need a service provider that can do both, traditional kind of dedicated outsourcing as well as cloud service providing, and services to help you transition between the two.
They're looking at cloud services, even if there's not to go to them, to compare the price.
So there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Everybody is struggling with different aspects of the business, trying to find the right combination. But we can see the overall trend going to a very hybrid model. And we also see the overall trend that public cloud cannot meet all needs of the businesses. Hopefully they're representative of your customer group as well. If you do, then I think Huawei is a great place to provide you, to work with you, come up with better solutions. And the reason for that is one of the challenge for a lot of you, of course, public cloud has much better cost structure. And meanwhile, the traditional IT suppliers, they have been struggling with innovation and struggling with changing their operating margin model. And therefore, it's a lot less flexible. So Huawei's value is we want to work with you, even though we came from originally the CT space. We are here, and we feel our mission is to work with you, create the most effective private cloud solution with our end-to-end portfolio, which is enterprise-ready, cost-competitive, and forward-looking. And that's how we look at ourselves. Hopefully that makes sense. Any of you read the story of Sisyphus? That Sisyphus was punished through eternity. So every day he has to roll up a huge boulder up the hill, and takes him all day to do that. And then the boulder will roll back down the hill over the night, and next day he does it again. So if you feel so I don't think I'll be able to do that, but so one of the things we've been talking to, as you know, Huawei Enterprise US has been here for a little bit over a year. So in that time frame, we've talked to a lot of our VARs and look at where we can provide the value. And one of the things we've heard repeatedly are the shrinking margin and high cost of certification, overly distributed, and sometimes high service % of product cost. So what we want to do is not just simply be here and sell you some boxes. What we want to be here is help you through this inflection point, relook at what the business model should look like, and help you build a strong business. So you might not be able to see the numbers here. For mature global industry, the typical margin, gross margin is actually 21% for even Exxon, 15% for Toyota, and Boeing 16%. And if you are wondering why you are struggling with margin, Here's why. For the enterprise IT industry, with all the transformation we talked about, enterprise are putting a lot of pressure on you to help them save costs, to compete with public cloud, to enhance functionality, etc. But meanwhile, the existing players are pretty much keeping their margins steady at about 60% for Cisco and about 80% for Oracle, over 60% for EMC. But hopefully that shows what the issues are and it shows you why we think it's an inflection point. Things are bound to change, and the way the profit are distributed today, the way the industry is structured today no longer makes sense. And in this inflection point, there will be businesses. I'm sure a lot of you have been in our business for a long time, and you realize the same inflection point happened over 10 years ago. That in this inflection point, for the business who can catch up with globalization trend and big data trend, cloud and ICT will continue to grow, actually grow stronger. And for the businesses staying status quo, make no change, perhaps might suffer from decline. So again, we think Huawei enterprise value is to provide you a portfolio you can really work with to catch up the next wave and to redefine your business model. So let's talk a little bit more about the Gorilla Game. Have any of you read that book from Jeffrey, The Gorilla Game? Joe in Manhattan? You have to read it because it's about picking stocks. Actually, we had some good conversations about picking stocks. I'm not good at picking stocks personally, but I like the book as well. So the idea is, how do you pick a stock based on the next growth trend? And specifically for IT industry, in Jeffrey's view, that companies that provide new products, services that can bring about sea change in how IT does business, where new supply chains and new efficiencies can bloom quickly and create new enormous economic value. I don't know about you, but that does read like Huawei to me. So here's a chart showing, in Jeffrey's view, the technology stack between electricity to end user. And on the left side are some of the examples of the gorillas of the past. And we are suggesting the gorillas of the future on the right side, specifically for Huawei, that's communications hardware and IT hardware. So hopefully by now you are convinced that enterprise ICT is here and now. And you're very familiar with the IT stack, which is the server, storage, network, operating platform, and the enterprise application. And hopefully throughout the week, you will learn a lot of what we have to offer on the communication stack in addition to the IT stack, which is cell coverage, Wi-Fi, and a couple of other items. So, it's only a 3-day conference, and hopefully this is only the beginning of we learn about each other. We might not be able to present all the portfolio to you this week, but hopefully you get the idea that what we are here for is help you to make that transition. And here's another chart showing the comparison of Huawei portfolio with some of the typical familiar suppliers in this market space on the whole ICT technology stack. So I'm sure one of the questions in your mind is how a technology company, yes, we've learned that Huawei has enormous amount of product portfolio or products in our portfolio, but how a technology company born and raised in China can do this, can help with this next wave. So may I suggest it's not the first time that has happened in America. If we look back in 1970, 1980, Toyota entered the US market, and it was a very difficult journey. But because Toyota entered, that market has been globalized. And in a way, it made American companies better because I live on Los Altos Hills and I see a lot of people drive Tesla. Globalization of an industry helps Silicon Valley to innovate more. Same thing with air travel. Their Southwest, even though it's American company, it brought very new operation model, and it really helped that industry to improve. And on the cell phone industry, we all know about Samsung. I still have my iPhone, although I should change to Huawei smartphone. But may I argue that because of Samsung, it's making iPhone better. It's helping iPhone to think about now what they can innovate for the next generation. And I think that's Huawei's role for this market, for all of us, is we need to change the way we compute, and we need a change agent. And there are very few of them around, and perhaps other than Huawei, it's not easy to find another candidate that can play this guerrilla game. And together, we can change the way people compute. Here's some other evidence showing why the existing players have stopped innovating, and they're getting too comfortable with their operating margin model, and they are not concerned enough about you guys or your customer, and they are not looking at the true ways to innovate and revamp the business model so you can be ready for the next 5 years. And meanwhile, there are also enough evidence what we talked about, the ICT to IT to ICT transition is here and it's today. Interestingly, it's not just happening in our industry. Alibaba is another phenomenal story that look at, even though at $4 billion, the amount of their transactions already surpassed the Amazon and the eBay. So I want to show you, hopefully will help you to see what I'm talking about for the past hour, that how a customer can leverage what I talked about in what they do. And here's Jerry.
My name is Jerry Allen. I'm with Crowley Independent School District. Upgrade our technology in Crowley. We were a little bit behind, and so we were able to go to the school board because we had built up enough trust and asked them for $6.4 million to help us do that, and without hesitation, with a unanimous vote, they gave us the money to go ahead and do various projects throughout Crowley. New telephones, systems, new infrastructure in all 23 of our locations, our schools. We also have a complete wireless upgrade package. We're doing a one-to-one solution for our students. I was a teacher, a math teacher, and then an administrator of a school. And so my love and my passion is instruction. And I've always viewed technology as a way that I can get the instruction to the child and keep them engaged. My vision is to flatten the walls of the schools so that we can have a more global approach to education. Students can reach out to other students in other nations, and as well as within their own community, to help those more shy students that are sitting in the back of the classroom and not able to speak or not want to speak because of scared of having the wrong answer. Technology allows you to be able to type in answers or give you anonymous answers and not feel sad about it, but then also when you're correct, it boosts that confidence of that student. My ultimate goal is to create a network, an outside LTE network for our students of Crowley ISD, so that our students can be walking down the street and actually working on their homework at the same time. That's a beautiful thing in my mind, as someone who is a student can be anywhere at any time and have internet connectivity. We have a economically disadvantaged population of about 58%, so to give them that opportunity in education is really an amazing thing. One of the most rewarding things about having devices in the students' hands is we have a severely autistic child. One of our high schools has never spoken. He's nonverbal. And he was able, actually, with a mobile device, to be able to type out a message and send that message to his brother in Austin, and it was the first time that he had ever communicated with his brother, and it just simply said, "I love you and thank you for everything you've done for me." I knew our vendor IP Convergence would give us the quality. I just trust him. I trust his judgment, and then the price, quite honestly, it allowed us to do so much more. By becoming a partner with Huawei, it just allowed us to do so much more for our kids, and I really appreciate it, and I know my kids will.